Good evening, Anne Arundel County. Good evening, America. Welcome to Promoting Community Conversation and Discovery. I'm your host, Anthony Bynum. The name of our production company is the Glen Burnie Players. These are exciting times here in Anne Arundel County. Exciting times. One, the weather has been very nice, or at least it's been better lately. We've gotten some rain, so we're getting some moisture back into the ground. That's a good thing. Things have been a little more temperate, I believe. So, so much to do, so little time to get it done. Well, as far as this week's episode is concerned, let's start off with some of the upcoming announcements, okay? Annapolis Opera will be at Riviera Church, or rather Riviera Beach Library, actually is what I meant to say. That's going to be this Saturday between 3 and 4. I've seen Annapolis Opera before. They do a very, very nice job. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to try to get over there and looking forward to that opportunity. Playing at the Maryland House, starting last week, the 19th, going through the 28th, which I believe is Sunday. Yeah, it would be Sunday, is Alice in Wonderland. Of course, it'll be an adaptation, that is. But they do a nice job. Tickets are, I believe you can get matinees for about $15. So if you get the opportunity, get the opportunity. Glen Burnie Friday night concerts are still going on. I believe this week is the last week. But about 7 o'clock. I'm not sure who's playing this time around, but it's fun. Right there, Glen Burnie Center. Right there, Glen Burnie Center. Glen Burnie Improvement Association sponsors the event. So let's see what else we got here. Sunday Lithicum concerts in the park. They are on Sundays here in Lithicum. Get the opportunity. I missed last week's. I believe they started around 5 o'clock, but it might be a good opportunity. Now, this Friday night, be Friday Night Live, John Wesley Gospel Concert. So if you get the opportunity, I believe tickets are still available at that door also. These are all fun. This is, of course, a fundraiser for the church. Our affiliates. We want to give a shout out to Anne Arundel Cable Access. Thank you for airing our show. Greenbelt Cable Access, which is in PG County. Thank you for airing our show. Amherst Media in Amherst, Massachusetts. Thank you for airing our show. Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I just got notification from them. They're going to air, I believe it's episode 2 of Don't Get Fooled Again. They're going to be airing it starting, I think, on Monday night. They were aired for like three days or 3 different showings. So I'm very excited about that opportunity. Thank you also for running our show. We want to look at our references. So tonight we have a number of different ones. One, the official NBA basketball encyclopedia. Of course, Wikipedia. Google Images. The Persis, this Perseus digital library, and also the Arts Council of Anne Arundel. So we want to thank all these references. Without you, we don't have this good information to pass on. We want to thank our underwriting/sponsor, the Cleaning Chef. That information is in the credits, so please check that out also. All right, so let's go. We start off with our most admired. This one started in one direction and then it went into a different direction, which is always a lot of fun. So first we're going to bring up, go to the share. Okay, there it is. So when you think of that image, you think of the NBA, you think of basketball, you think about great players. And recently I continue to see all this information about the greatest of all time. Who's the GOAT? And is it the Michael Jordans? And is it some of the older guys, the Bill Russells, because he was so prolific. And my favorite, of course, of all time is Dr. J. But there's been so many greats. This generation loves LeBron James. All these guys were fantastic. But the most important person in the history of the NBA was not a player. He was not an owner. In fact, he wasn't even a basketball guy. He was the first commissioner of the league. His name, Maurice Podoloff. That's Podolloff. He was commissioner from 1946 to 1963. So let's talk a little bit about his life because it's amazing. Now, he was born in 1890 in some part of the Ukraine that I can't pronounce. Okay. He died in 1985 in his adopted home of New Haven, Connecticut. He was born into a Jewish Russian family. Again, we don't know the name of the town, but he immigrated to America as a young boy. He graduated from Hill House High in New Haven in 1909. Think about that. He must have been a bright guy because he had to learn the English very quickly to do well in our school. As a matter of fact, he was so bright, he went to Yale Law School, graduated in 1915. This is a sharp guy. This is a sharp guy. Born in Tsarist Russia. This is a sharp guy. Now, in 1926, with his father and two brothers, they opened the New Haven Arena. This was an arena for hockey, but it was also for skating. It was for the circus. So this guy was learning the business right then and there, right? He's learning the business right then and there. Now, he served as a president of the American Hockey. So he made enough of a name for himself in running the New Haven Arena that they made him president of the American Hockey League. Okay, this is essentially, and I believe it still is, a developmental league for the NHL. In fact, he's probably the only man ever to live who's actually the president of two major sports leagues, different leagues, not two basketball leagues, not two football leagues, one basketball and one hockey. And this was so important. We're going to talk about why this is so important. So in the early days, the NBA, you had all kinds of barnstorming teams, old teams, all these leagues. And the one thing I know from reading that encyclopedia is that they all failed. They'd work for a while and they get some fans, people liked the game, and then the business model just kept failing. In fact, it was failing for him too. See, he was appointed president of the newly formed Basketball Association of America in 1946. They lost money the first few years. He looked to the Midwest. He saw another basketball league. This basketball league was called the National Basketball League. And he noticed that the teams over there were a little more stable. And they had some of the players that were a little better known. So what does he do? He starts talking. He talks to people over there at the Fort Wayne Zollner Pistons and the Indianapolis Catch-a-Skies. I'm not sure what a Catch-a-Sky is. I'm gonna have to look that one up. But two teams come over to the newly formed Basketball Association of America. Who follows? The Minneapolis Lakers. And they just happen to have the world's best known basketball player, George Mikan. Now there are 12 teams. Within a year, the merger is complete. Yeah, the merger is complete within a year. During this guy's reign, they adopted the 24-second shot clock. Now, he didn't invent the 24-second shot clock, but he adopted it because he realized the game needed to be a little faster. It was too plodding. So that was a big deal, right? At some point there, the first TV contract is signed. We know how big a deal that is because the NBA just signed one for ridiculous money. But there was more to it than that. In fact, the MVP award is still named after him. But he was a disciplinarian too, and this is important. He understood the problem with betting could pose to the pro game. He understood it, or this sports in general. It was a problem. There was a stigma. And he actually meted out 32 lifetime suspensions of guys associated with point shaving scandals in the NCAA. He said, "You will never be in my league. I don't want anything to do with you." This guy was absolutely incredible. And one thing that's not said It's not stated, but it's so obvious that I have to state it. Hockey and basketball teams have always shared arenas. And he would know that because when you hockey, what do you freeze about 2 inches of ice with some sort of freezer system. You need to play basketball. What do? You just put wood floor on there. So you think about all the major cities, Boston with their Celtics and Bruins, Philadelphia with the Flyers and 76ers, Detroit with the Pistons and the Red Wings, Chicago with the Blackhawks and the Bulls, Cleveland. Now, Cleveland said NBA teams, and they were involved in the hockey business too. I don't know if they have, and even now, I don't believe they have an NHL team, but they always had an AHL team. So again, sharing those arenas, it was just a way to be efficient and to make this thing go. So for all those reasons, this week, most admired, Maurice Podoloff. Yes. Okay. So I want to move forward here because this is the time we talk about something of consequence regarding Anne Arundel County. And this week we want to talk about Fort Meade. And I'm actually going to open it up right here. Doesn't that open it up for me? Okay, well, you can see where it says Fort Meade. I guess we're going to have to go with that. Oh, there it is. All right. So Fort Meade became an active, this is their website right here, became an active Army installation in 1917 by an act of Congress. The initial cost was $18 million. 400 soldiers passed through Fort Meade through 3 infantry divisions because they're all gearing up for World War I. That's what it was all about. Why was Fort Meade selected? It was because of the proximity to rail lines. Like so many towns in Anne Arundel County. It's all based on those rail lines. We've talked about this before now. Now, it was named after General George Meade because of the role he played as commander during probably the most important turning point battle of the Civil War, and that was the Battle of Gettysburg. There's something else here, and we're gonna stop the share right there. We covered the fort here, so I'm gonna stop the share. But there's one other thing we want to do. So normally at this time, I like to do a speech, a poem, something of that kind of ties things together. And I'm actually going to do something a little different this time. Now, this actually comes from something called Pegasus. No, it comes from, I think I announced it earlier. Excuse me. Perseus Digital Library. And it's actually a letter that General Meade wrote. He wrote this letter on July 8th, 1863. And he wrote it to his wife, who was at the headquarters at the Potomac in Frederick. So that's where she was. Civil War. Everyone was involved in the Civil War one way or the other, right? So here's what it said. I arrived here yesterday. The army is assembling at Middletown. I think we shall have another battle before Lee can cross the river. Though, from all accounts, he is making great efforts to do so. For my part, as I have to follow and fight him, I'd rather do it at once in Maryland than follow into Virginia. I received last evening your letters of the 3rd and the 5th, and am truly rejoiced that you are treated with such distinction on the account of my humble services. I see also that the papers are making a great deal, too much fuss about me. I claim no extraordinary merit for this last battle and would prefer waiting a little while to see what my career is to be before making any pretensions. I did and shall continue to do my best duty to the best of my abilities. but knowing as I do that battles are often decided by accidents, that no man of sense will say in advance what their results will be. I wish to be careful in not bragging before the right time. George is very well, though both of us are a great deal fatigued from our recent operations. Perhaps he had a son named George. I'm not really sure. From the time I took command till today, now over 10 days, I have not changed my clothes, have not had a regular night's rest, and many nights not a wink of sleep. And for several days did not even wash my face and hands, no regular food, and at the time in a great state of mental anxiety. Indeed, I think I have lived as much in this time as in my last 30 years. Old Baldy is still living and apparently doing well. The ball passed within an inch of my thigh, passed through the saddle and entered Baldy's stomach. I did not think he could live, but the old fella has such a wonderful tenacity of life that I am in hopes he will. So old Baldy's obviously is his horse, you know. That's a very touching letter. That's a very touching letter. This is right in the middle of battle. You know, I get a lot of different reading opportunities. And one of the things that I get is a newsletter from the 29th. It's called the 29ers, but these are all retired guys, 29. And I had a long email message because I had finished reading a very good article regarding some civil disturbances in the 60s that the 29th was involved in. That's a 29th hat right there, by the way. Anyway, so I'm trying to remember my train of thought here. Oh, yes. Most of the things that come out in their quarterly newsletter, it's 12, 15 pages. I don't even look at it, to be honest with you. I mean, the ceremony here, this guy turns 100, it's important stuff, but none of it really catches my attention. But there is one thing that does catch my attention, and that's the real stories from the front. 29th was involved in World War II. And you have all these stories from diaries, and they're fantastic. It's real life. That letter from General Meade, that was real life. You hear what he said? He was full of anxiety. You hear what he said? He didn't want to go into Virginia to deal with Lee. He wanted to deal with him in Maryland. So it's real stuff. It's real stuff. Like I said, Anne Arundel County, these are exciting times. We have great opportunities here. It's a great place to be. So for everyone here at the Glen Burnie Players, again, my name is Anthony Bynum. Until next time, bye-bye.